Okay, to begin, I need two very strong people to come and demonstrate their strength. Well, I just need two strong people to come and lift something heavy. For real, I need two people. Okay, I see two strong people right here. Thank you very much. Let's give them a hand. Okay, I need each of you to just take the handle and lift that and just hold it. Hold it up. Okay, does anybody know how big these buckets are? 5 gallons. Okay, and there's water in here, not wine. It's just water. Okay, so these are just 5-gallon buckets. These are not the kind of buckets that Jesus was working with in the miracle. It said that Jesus was working with stone jars that each held 20 or 30 gallons, and I have a picture of those on the screen. When I went to Israel in 2023, I went to the town of Cana in Galilee, and they excavated these jars that would have been used for these purification rites. You're doing a great job. Thanks for volunteering. And so imagine filling those stone jars up. Like, they're made of stone, so they already are really heavy. And then they'd hold 20 or 30 gallons. These just each hold 5 gallons. So each of these is 35 pounds, 7 pounds per gallon. Now, okay, I'll let you set them down. On Wednesday night, I made some confirmation students hold them the whole time I talked about it. But I really wanted you to feel the weight of what Jesus provided. So thank you. Let's let them go sit down. Thank you. If they wouldn't have come up, I would have made my husband come up here. I'm like, if no one comes, you've got to at least come up here. Okay, but Jesus actually made a lot of wine, because if we were to have the actual amount he made, it said 6 jars holding 20 to 30 gallons each. It would have been between 120 and 180 gallons of water that was turned into wine. So we would have needed up to 36 buckets. 36 5-gallon buckets up here, or 180 1-gallon bottles of Mogan David. That's the kind of wine we use for communion. So those big 1-gallon bottles, 180 of those, but I didn't have time to buy that. And to my knowledge, this is still water. It hasn't changed into wine yet. But I just want to give you a sense of what Jesus provided for this wedding. Now, in John's gospel, it says that this was the very first public miracle that Jesus did, turning water into wine. But in John's gospel, he never calls these things miracles. He calls them signs, because whenever Jesus does something like this, it's not just a cool party trick. Just look what I can do. These are signs that point us to God, that kind of reveal something about God to us and to the world. And so as we look at this miracle story, it appears that Jesus didn't want this to be his first miracle or sign. It seems like his mother kind of bullied him into it. And he was like, Mom, I want my first miracle to be a really cool miracle. I want to choose it. But what Mary saw was that this was a big deal. Weddings back in that day lasted a whole week, and hospitality was something that was such an important value. And these people wanted to show hospitality in the food, in the wine. How can they care for the people that come to this wedding? And Mary saw this as an opportunity for Jesus to step in and show the power of God, that God can provide in this situation. Because maybe a whole bunch of relatives from out of town showed up and they ran out of wine, and Mary said, this is a big deal. So Jesus acted. And what this tells us about God is that God cares about hospitality too. And God cares about providing, and not only providing what we need, but providing generously. And so I had you to hold on to these buckets because I wanted you to feel the weight, because the people at that wedding got to experience the weight of God's generosity. And the beautiful thing that we learn about God too is that God showed up in this tiny town of Cana in Galilee. this little blip on the map, this place where they probably weren't very important people, and yet God showed up for them and gave them an experience of good wine. Like, these folks probably were regular, like, hey, we just got some Boone's Farm, we're fine. Jesus showed up and was like, I want you all, folks who don't get to experience the good stuff, the expensive wine, I want you to have a taste of something amazing. So God showed up caring for people that other people maybe didn't care about. And the other cool thing about this miracle is that the only people who actually realized the miracle were the servants, the catering staff who were there to serve other people. They're the only ones who actually got to see the miracle before their eyes. It wasn't the important people. It was just the workers at this wedding. They had to haul the water, that 180 gallons, and see that Jesus could act in big ways. And it said they believed in him, and his new disciples also believed in him. So the Jesus movement started in an unlikely place. Okay, now we're done with the object lesson portion of things, but I just wanted you to get a scope of the weight of God's generosity. So we are in our sermon series called What If? And this picture was taken of the activity going on right across the street to the west of us. As our church grows and our community is expanding, we are dreaming about what is next at Good Shepherd. And we've been asking ourselves and other people, if you could wave a magic wand and dream without limits, what would Good Shepherd look like in 5 or 10 years? Would we have a larger sanctuary that can accommodate the large numbers of people we see, especially on Wednesday nights? There's room for all of you this morning, but most Wednesday night worship services, we don't have enough room, and we need people to scooch in, and we fill up the choir area, and we set up chairs out in the gathering space, and we bring in extra chairs. It's a regular occurrence. But we also have big special days, Christmas and Easter and other times throughout the year, where every service is full. We're also dreaming about what would it look like to have more space for children's ministry. We have a relatively new education wing, but it is already filled to the brim for church school and for confirmation as it is. And then we also have the question of, would we ever add a daycare to Good Shepherd? Because there's such a big need in our community for daycare space. So the questions we're asking are, how can we grow not just in numbers, but in purpose and in welcome, making sure that everyone walks through the doors of this place, has a place to park in the parking lot, has a seat to sit in worship, and has a sense of belonging. These are the questions that we are asking right now as staff and council. And while we're asking these questions about dreaming into the future, we still have to work on taking care of the needs of today and just doing the everyday ministry here. So in light of that, we are going to be switching gears, and welcome to a family meeting. I have done this every once in a while where I've commandeered the sermon time and turned it into a family meeting. You maybe have had these in your homes where it's like, okay, everybody get together. We've got a big thing we've got to figure out. And usually family meetings aren't that fun. So I don't like to do them very often here at church. But it is an opportunity to create space for maybe an uncomfortable topic. And we just use this sermon time for the family meeting. So what is everyone's least favorite topic to hear about at church? Okay, third service in a row. Everybody just says money. Like, there's not even a pause. Like, I was like, there's got to be different answers. I'm interested what people... No, just all 3 services. It happened Wednesday night, happened at 8:30 right away. And they were louder at 8:30. Money. Like, they're just like, we don't want to hear it. And I get it. Money is hard to talk about. It is not our favorite topic, and we don't like that to be the focus of our sermons. But every once in a while, we have to talk about it because it is important to what we do and how we do it. And also, we are accountable to all of you who are a part of this congregation. This church's operating budget is 100% supported by the offerings that people give. We don't have another funding source from somewhere else. It is just people who choose to voluntarily share an offering that helps fund everything we do. And when I look around at this building, at this beautiful space, it is funded by people like being able to pay the mortgage and upkeeping this space and maintaining it and paying a dedicated staff and sharing generously in our community with ministries that help feed and clothe and house people. It's a miracle to me. All of this is done on a voluntary basis of people just choosing to share what they have to help it happen day in, day out, week in, week out. And I feel the weight of all of your generosity. Every month when we meet payroll, I feel the weight of your generosity when we're able to make some extra payments on our mortgage so that we can get rid of it faster. I feel the weight of your generosity when you all have been stepping up in a big way to give money towards helping people in our community who are really financially pinched right now and need extra help with food or with housing or utilities. I feel the weight of your generosity in the ways that you all have been stepping up. So here is the reason for our family meeting. As we move into the 11th month of 2025, we are about $50,000 short of where we would like to be, or where we need to be in our general operating budget. And this isn't an insurmountable challenge. Our operating budget is about $1.2 million annually, but we share that we are $50,000 behind because we're approaching the end of the year. And we want to fill that gap. We want to be able to reach the end of this year and meet the goals that we've set so that we can fulfill all of the ministry obligations we made at the beginning of the year. And so we share this number with you that we're $50,000 short because people don't know what they don't know. And if you show up here and we've got wonderful, lively worship and church school and we're helping in the community and everything looks like it's going normally, then there's no reason for any of us to think too hard about money and how we are doing all these things. So we share with you because you don't know what you don't know. I am so thankful that we have beautiful worship here, that we have church school, that we are able to care for our building, that we're able to engage in our community. But none of these things happen by accident. It requires prayer and planning. It requires budgeting and oversight. It requires dedication in order to have all of these things continue to happen. And so we invite everyone who considers this church to be their home church to support this mission. Our goal every year is to invite every person who belongs to this place to share something with this mission. And we know that each household has different constraints and also different capacities. And so some people ask, like, what's a good starting point or how can we understand the budget? Well, one way is this. If we divided the budget equally among our about 900 households, each household would give about $120 a month or $1,400 a year. And we know that some people give way more than that and some people give less than that. But that is just the rough if we were to divide things equally. Now I've got another slide here about if we are just working on closing that gap and getting to where we need to by the end of the year. If 500 households gave $100 for the first time if they haven't given something, or increased their giving by $100 before the end of the year, we could fill the gap and stay on track. Our goal as a church is never to make money. We are a nonprofit in that sense. Our goal is always to break even, to meet the needs we said we would meet at the beginning of the year. So I bring all this up because we had our monthly council meeting on Tuesday, And we learned that one of the reasons that giving has not kept up with our budget that was proposed at the beginning of the year is because many people who do automated giving or who have set amounts that they give each year have continued to give the same amount each year, even though our costs keep going up because that's what life is like. Inflation, insurance increases, all these things impact our church budget too. And when I heard this about how our regular set amount hasn't been keeping up with what our budget is, it hit me because I realized that my family has not adjusted our giving upward for the last 3 or 4 years. And so I want to be honest about my own giving here at Good Shepherd. My husband and I are working towards trying to give a tithe, or 10% of our income. And we have been giving $850 a month to Good Shepherd. Saying this out loud is awkward because our giving decisions are often private. There are decisions to make, and we don't have to share them with other people. It feels very vulnerable to say that out loud to all of you. But after our council meeting on Tuesday night, I went home and I discussed this with my husband about moving our giving from $850 a month to $900 a month. And then the next morning, I adjusted my giving in the Church Center app to $900 a month. And I want to say that even though I work at the church and that my part of our family income comes from the church, giving to the church is not a requirement, and it's not easy, and it's not automatic. It is a decision that we wrestle with. And so as we are trying to grow towards a tithe for our own family, we have to always go back to our values. We go back to our why, our relationship with money and belief in the mission. So I want to share about why I give what I give and what I'm working towards. But first, our values. Our values include supporting causes beyond our own needs, so that we can always be reminded that God is at the center of our lives and not our own needs and not our own wants. We want to be contributors and not consumers. That is one of our values. Our why. My and my husband's why is that community matters. My husband is a professor of counseling at MSUM, and he knows that mental health suffers when people are isolated from one another and isolated from support. So we choose to even figure out how to spend our money so that we are investing our money towards community and not towards isolation. We can use our money to make decisions that isolate us or insulate us from the needs of others, or we can use our money to be invested in the needs of others. Community is something that is important to our spiritual health and to our mental health. We also make this decision based on our relationship with money. We all are human. We all have endless wants. I have endless wants. There are so many things I would like to add into my life. But if we set our budget first with what we can give away, we're putting a boundary on how big our wants will get. They can't grow beyond a certain point. So we put that safeguard around our money. And finally, I believe in the mission of the church, not just of this church, but of the church, the capital C church. I believe in the mission that God chooses to work with groups of imperfect people to do beautiful things in the world. I think God has gathered us together and said, I know you're not perfect. I know you're not going to measure up all the time, but I have a big mission and I need you. And when I gather you together, I'm calling you the body of Christ. And I want to work in you and through you so that the blessings you have in your life don't just end in you, but that are shared with others. I am a part of this mission because I believe in it. Our Good Shepherd mission is to gather, grow, and go so that all may know the Good Shepherd. And I need to gather with other people. I need to grow in my faith. I need to be pushed out there to go and share God's love with others. I need to be pushed to love like Jesus. And it's a choice that I have to make over and over again. As the lead pastor of this church, I believe it is important to support the mission of this church and to be transparent with all of you in how I am trying to do that. Now, no one has to give to Good Shepherd, but we invite you to consider giving. Whatever amount that you have determined after looking at your values and your why, that's what we invite you to give. And if you determine that Good Shepherd is not something that you want to support financially, that's okay. We invite you to find something else that you really do believe in, that you want to support. Something that makes our community better, something that makes our world a better place. But we invite you to invest in something beyond yourself. And if you do give to Good Shepherd regularly, thank you. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for investing in this mission. Thank you for contributing. When was the last time that you increased your giving? And would you consider increasing your giving this year? Every time I'm faced with a big challenge that I don't know what looks like on the other side of it, I think of my friend who says, "Wow, I can't wait to see how Jesus shows up." I can't wait to see how Jesus shows up. Whether it's turning water into wine or pulling together as a church family to meet a goal, God is the most important actor in making big things happen. The story of turning water into wine reminds me that God does provide, but it also reminds me that there is some heavy lifting involved.